Welcome everyone. So glad to have you here on this Sunday morning if you're closer to our West Coast, or Sunday afternoon if, like me, you're East Coast time. Like Natasha said, I am Sarah Taylor, class of 2016 at Davidson. Just a couple years after graduating, I got my yoga certification through a studio here locally in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm still based and where I'm from. And what kind of movement we'll be doing today will be a lot of just like slow movement, gentle practice. Really my philosophy is like building a lifelong practice with yoga. So if we're getting on our mat, we're moving, that is yoga. We're breathing with movement. It's really not about like achieving a certain pose or doing yoga a certain amount of hours per week, that sort of thing. So I'm so glad you're here. As I said, if you have a mat, lie that out. Ideally, you'd be on maybe like a harder surface, like maybe if not carpet, maybe wood or some similar surface. And I'd offer you grab a blanket. I'll go dry my mat so you can see. Grab a blanket to just start seated. And before I jump right in, if you have any areas of your body that are feeling really tight or sore, or you'd like us to make sure we work through today, let's take a minute if you want to unmute yourself and like say hi, say, hey, I have a knee injury, like please be gentle on knees, or my hamstrings are tight, but I'll give you an opportunity to unmute if you want. Awesome. Throughout the practice, if you decide a pose really isn't working for you and you want alternatives to that posture, go ahead, take yourself off mute, or just message, as Morgan and Natasha mentioned, just message one or both of them in the chat. Okay, great. So we will start seated, cross-legged. Again, throughout the practice, you can turn video on or off. Really just up to you. It's definitely your choice here. So we're started seated, allowing your eyes to flutter closed. If that doesn't feel comfortable, you can keep them gently open, maybe to a gaze just right in front of your feet, keeping the neck nice and long. Taking the hands, maybe hands just press down onto the thighs. Breathing just as you would normally. So bringing attention to the breath, not feeling like you have to change it, or deepen it in any way, just noticing what is. Feeling the contact maybe of the feet on the floor if you're crisscross applesauce. Or if you find that that's uncomfortable on the knees, maybe you're sitting up on the heels or sitting in a chair with the feet just grounding yourself on the floor. The theme of class today, and what we were turning to with a number of our postures, is just opening up through the heart. And that's just a physical movement of opening up the chest. You could also kind of take it further, extend it, past the physical practice of the yoga that we're doing today, and then extend it out into the rest of your day. Like, in what ways can you open the literal heart or figurative heart to others around you, to yourself? I like integrating aspects of yoga, not just asana, which is a physical practice, but we're talking, how can we take what we learned here from the breath and the movement here on the mat into our daily lives? Taking hands heart center, eyes can still be closed. We'll start by doing a few breaths together, exhaling all of your air. Inhale through the nose, filling up the chest. Maybe also filling up the belly. Exhale out the mouth to start. Whatever you came from before this, just allow the breath to center yourself here on the mat. You can always come back to the, off the mat life afterwards, but right here, you're practicing, and we're so glad to have you. Inhale through the nose one more time. And exhale. And then let's do one more, but we'll inhale through the nose this time. And exhale out the nose. I'll be bringing your attention to the breath throughout practice. But this is a great way to get things started. If you have the eyes closed, allow the eyes to open. Begin with some gentle neck stretches. So inhale. Just bring your shoulders up to your ears. Exhale, draw the shoulder blades together and down the back. Again, inhaling, drawing the shoulders up to the ears, and exhale, bring them back and down the back. Inhale, center, just lifting through the crown of the head for me. That's lifting through my bun. And then exhale, taking right ear to right shoulder. Breathing here, breathing into any amount of tension you might be feeling in that left side of your neck. Maybe you extend the left fingers down towards the mat or towards a block, noticing how that changes the stretch. If it becomes too intense, bring the left hand back to the left thigh. Inhaling back through center. Exhale, left ear to left shoulder. Right hand, if it would feel good, can come down, fingertips tenting on the mat. Breathing here, breathing into the right neck, right side of the neck. And then inhaling back through center. Take your left arm up to the ceiling, then bend your left elbow. Reach for the left elbow with your right hand, and any amount, just draw the left arm back behind you. Maybe you bend to the right a little bit if that would accentuate the stretch. Maybe this is the first time you've gotten on your mat today, or this week, or this month, or this year. Any movement is good. We'll switch sides. So this time, left hand to right elbow, bending the right elbow, and then maybe side bending one way and then the other, seeing what feels good, moving into what areas of tension in the body you'd like to just inhale, send breath, and exhale, releasing any amount. Releasing the arms, this time taking the right arm across the body. Left hand reaches around for your forearm, just draws, invites that stretch across the outer edge of your arm. You can keep that right hand in a fist, or maybe if it would feel good, you can bend the wrist, pointing it up like a little stop sign, pointing it down. I don't know about you all, but I spend a lot of time on my computer, so this can feel really great. And switching sides, this time left arm crosses across the body. You can keep the hand in a fist, or maybe again, offering that same stretch for the wrist, for the forearms. Flexing and bending the left wrist. Releasing the arms, we'll move on to hands and knees. So we'll actually just start moving any blankets you had out of your way. We'll actually start on our bottoms. So stay, taking legs longer along the length of the mat. Just begin by waking up our core just a little bit to start the morning. This is a great option. You're sitting up on your sits bones, spine is tall, feeling that the head is stacking over, shoulders over hips, feet are planted, but knees are bent. So this great little triangle shape. This is a great option. Hands can just rest on the knees. Draw your belly button into your core and just feel that engagement in your center. Next option, drawing feet away from the mat, maybe one foot and then the other foot. We're moving into boat pose. So you can play around just lifting one or the other. Hands can come behind the thighs to support, or maybe you rock slightly back, still feeling that connection in the sits bones. If you were to kind of rock back and forth, you'd feel your hips just, oh, not hips, those little pointy outy bits sinking out of the floor. And keep the feet pointed or flexed, really whatever makes you feel most stable here. If you'd like, hands can stay behind the thighs, or maybe you reach them out and alongside the shins. Another great option is to bring hands behind the low back, just to give yourself a little extra support. If you find yourself rounding in, you've kind of lost that engagement in the core. So drawing back up, maybe taking the feet down for a moment and then back up. One more inhale here. And exhale, rolling over onto hands and knees this time. Coming into tabletop. So that is hips over knees. Feet can be just unflexed here. So we have tops of the feet on the mat. If you want a little more stability here, you can flex the feet. It's really up to you. Notice if you have any sensitivity in the wrists. You can bring the hands further out in front of you. Or if you'd like, hands can be more directly under shoulders. Noticing if you've kind of cranked up through the neck or down below. Just bring the gaze in between the hands, pressing through all of your fingers. That will help strengthen the hands, strengthen the wrists, and take out some of the pressure from your wrists. With your inhale, gaze forward, lifting up, spine is flexed, cow pose. Exhaling, cat, rounding through the spine, gaze back between your legs. Inhaling, cow pose. Really feeling the bowing of that spine. Exhaling, cat pose. Pressing again through all 10 fingers. Twice more on your own pace. Inhaling, cow. Exhaling, cat. Inhaling, cow. And exhaling, cat. Coming back in to neutral spine. Coming into that tabletop pose. We'll be threading the needle. So we'll start with planting the left hand into the mat. Right arm opens out to the right. Maybe gaze up toward the ceiling. Inhale. Exhale. Taking the right arm underneath the left, threading the needle. Option, just keep that right hand pressing the hand or the fingers onto the floor. Another option is to lower the right shoulder towards the mat. Maybe your head makes contact with the mat. I like keeping my left fingers tented here to keep some of the pressure off of my neck here. We don't want is sinking down into the neck. Hips still feel like they're stacking over knees. If you'd like, you can extend the left hand out any amount, walking it forward, keeping up on the fingertips. Inhale here, or wherever you are, exhale. Inhale. Exhale. With your next inhale, walking your hand back in towards the mat, if it were extended, and then coming back up through center. Thread the needle on the other side. This time, right hand plants, left arm reaches out and up to the ceiling. Exhaling, threading that left arm under the right. Option to stay here, left fingertips are tented up. Also another option, lowering the left shoulder down towards the mat. Right fingers tent, coming up onto the right hand. And then if this feels good, if you'd like, you can extend, just walking the fingertips out, long, extending towards top of the mat, maybe even a little beyond it. Breathing here. Noticing that twisting in the upper back, in the low back. Like finding whichever position feels best for you in your body today. If you have the hand extended long, bring it back in, pressing up to tabletop. Wonderful. One more way in which we'll engage through our cores to start off our practice. Tuck your toes, pressing into all the fingers of the hands. Draw your belly button into your spine, and then just hover the knees 2 or 3 inches off the mat. We're not going crazy here. This little bear pose is really fun. Notice if you're still breathing. Breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Once more, inhale. And exhale, lowering the knees down. This time taking the knees wide, toes touch. Sink your hips back towards the heels. If you'd like, you can take a blanket between your sits bones and your heels. Child's pose. Head reaches down towards the mat or towards a block. You can come up on the fingertips of the hands if that would feel interesting to you. Just noticing how the shoulder blades feel on the body. If you're noticing when you're on your fingertips a little bit more where they are in space. Be coming back to child's pose. Frequently in our practice, it's a great place of rest. If you find that this is uncomfortable on the knees, you can also do the same movement on your back, or you can bring your knees together and you then are more like a little bean, which is fun too. Arms can extend back if you're in this version of child's pose. Whichever version you've chosen, walking the hands back out. We'll be coming into our first down dog. Tuck your toes, pressing into all of your fingers of your hands. When you're ready, lifting your hips up and back, keeping your knees really bent to start. Heels can reach towards the mat, but they by no means need to touch the mat. Maybe you pedal at the feet, pedal at the legs, bending one knee and then bending the other. Just noticing, waking up the hamstrings. Moving more into stillness here, breathing, inhale, exhale. At the bottom of your exhale, taking as many tiny little baby steps as you need to get to the top of your mat. We're gonna forward fold. Knees remain super bent here. So what we're looking for in a forward fold is really less, are your fingers touching the mat, and more, is my spine super round? If you find that you're kind of just hanging out here and you feel like you're super rounded in your spine, what we're trying to get at here and what these stretches so intense on is hamstrings. So you bend your hamstrings, bend your knees, as much as you need to kind of make contact with your belly and your thighs. Gaze back between the legs, shake your head, no. Shake your head, yes, just releasing into the head, releasing into your spine and neck. Inhaling, halfway lift, hands come to shins, flat back, neck remains long. So gazing, when you're not looking at me on the screen, gazing down to the top of your mat. Exhale, folding back in. Inhaling, halfway lift. This time, option to take the hands, clasp them behind the back. Inhale here. Drawing shoulder blades together and down. Noticing if that takes the hands off the low back. Inhale here. Half lift, exhale, folding back in. Knowing that if you stayed with our original forward fold, maybe you take opposite elbows with opposite hands, or you just let the hands dangle down towards the floor. If you did the clasp of your hands together, maybe invite the hands to come off the low back any amount. And really, if you notice clasping the hands super tight causes some discomfort or pain in the shoulders, you can loosen the clasp of the hands. I'll show you by turning this way. Hello, like this. Or you can clasp them tighter. So tighter clasp is definitely more of an intense stretch in the shoulders. Looser clasp is less of an intense one. So choose your own adventure. We're all breathing, we're all moving, so we are all doing yoga. One more inhale here. If you have the clasp of the hands, gently lowering them back down to the low back and then releasing all the way down. With your next inhale, slowly rolling all the way back up. So vertebra by vertebra. Joining me in standing. Shoulders, neck, and head are the last to come up. So you really feel like you're stacked. Head over shoulders, shoulders over hips, and hips over feet. So we're hips width distance with our feet. So if you could take 2 fists between your hands, that's a really good gauge. We want at least 2 fists width difference distance, maybe a little wider. Wider will provide you with a little more stability here. Gentle bend in the knees, noticing that you're never locking out the knees. Slight bend. Mountain pose. Maybe here you allow your eyes to close again, returning to the theme for practice today, opening your heart, thinking of ways in which you engage with your life with an open mind, an open heart, and then maybe a way in which you'd like to find more openness. And maybe you just keep asking yourself this question throughout your day. You don't need to have like a 5-paragraph essay response right now. Just notice what comes to mind. If your eyes were closed, gently open them. With an inhale, arms reach up to the ceiling. Exhaling, hands heart center. Inhaling, arms reach out and up. Exhaling, hands heart center. This time, hinge at the hips, folding forward. Forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift, hands come to shins. Exhale, hands come down to the mat, bend the knees as much as you need to get there. Step one foot back and then the other into plank pose. Can come down to the knees, drawing heels into the chest. This is also a great version of plank. If you're noticing pain in your wrists, I would invite you to come back into a forearm version of this plank. Up to you. So I'll demonstrate from plank pose, shoulders over wrists. Notice if you have your booty kind of going up towards the ceiling and then draw it back down. Tuck the tailbone, so engage core, belly into spine. Inhale here. Exhale. If your knees aren't already lowered, lower the knees and then lower all the way, taking your time to the ground. Arms extend long alongside the body, palms face up towards the ceiling. For a moment, just take your chin down towards the floor, towards the mat. Setting up for Shalabhasana, Lobist. Locust pose, very applicable here in Ohio because we have so many cicadas. Drawing the shoulder blades up, back, and down on the back. Noticing if that pulls the shoulder blades away from the mat here. Belly button draws into spine. Then feet lift any amount off the mat. Neck remains long, hands reach up towards the ceiling. Locust pose, arms are reaching up, shoulder blades draw together, feet reach up, core engaged. One more inhale. Exhale, lower. Take your head to either side. Maybe you draw heels into your glutes and rock. Windshield wiper the feet side to side. We'll do this once more. Extend your legs long again. Untuck the toes, tops of the feet. Rest on the mat. We'll lift everything up together. So draw belly button into spine, engage your core strength. Inhaling, lift off the mat. If you'd like, you can clasp the hands behind the back, reaching them towards the feet. Maybe they lift slightly off the low back. But if you liked our first version, also great. One more inhale here. Exhale, take the chin or the cheek to the opposite side. Windshield wiper the feet to release into the low back if that would feel good. Wonderful. From here, taking hands, you're setting up for like a baby cobra. So take the hands beside the rib cage, pressing up briefly through tabletop, knees wide, toes touch, child's pose. Arms can be long here. If it would feel good, just allow the forearms to rest along the mat rather than feeling like you have to tent the fingertips and keep that constant engagement. Use that connection of the forehead into the mat to just notice your breath. Maybe taking account of your mood and how you started our practice today, and maybe now that we've been moving for a little bit, how you're feeling. Making your way back up through tabletop, tucking your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. We'll just be here for 3 breaths. Another great option if down dog feels too much on the wrists is to come down to the knees, puppy pose. So extend the arms long, hips still stack over knees, toes remain tucked, forehead reaches towards the mat or block. So that puppy is a great alternative for down dog. But wherever you are, one more inhale, exhale. This time, pressing into the left foot. Inhale, right leg lifts any amount up towards the ceiling, keeping the hips level. So notice if you whoop, open the hip, and instead bring the right hip back down. One more inhale here, 3-legged dog. Exhale, stepping the right foot and taking as many steps as you need to get there in between the hands. Lower your back knee, untuck your toes, low lunge. From low lunge, we have a lot of options. You can stay here, fingertips, kind of staying up on the fingertips of the hand, or hands can come to the thigh or heart center. Noticing here, whichever version you've chosen, take a look at your hip points. Is your left hip really far back in space? If so, maybe invite it to draw more in line with the right hip. Scissoring the legs together to feel like you're using the strength of your legs to help you deepen in the posture. So we use some amount of buoyancy here in the pose. We're not sinking down into the hips. And in process, we're getting really great stretch and strengthening our legs. If you're here, hands heart center, I'd invite you, inhale, reach the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, cactus arms. So arms come to 2 90-degree angles. Inhale, reaching up. We'll do this twice more. Exhale, 90-degree. Inhale, reach up to the ceiling. Exhale, cactus arms. Inhaling back, hands heart center. Lowering the hands down to frame the front foot if you weren't already there. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee, and just step back into plank pose. Option to hold plank here, go back to down dog or child's pose, or inhale here in plank. Exhale, lower the knees and lower slowly all the way down to the mat. You can do locust pose, arms long, lifting up with your inhale, or we'll do a little baby cobra. So hands plant on either side of the ribs. With your inhale, toes touch. Gently lift, tiny amount. Keeping a length in the neck, breathing here. Use your strength of your core to really protect your low back here. We're only coming up as high as you can without using your hands. So if you lift your hands off the mat, wiggle your fingers, you don't sink down. So that's about as high as we're going. Really not that high up. One more inhale wherever you are, and then exhale, lowering back down. Pressing up through tabletop. Tuck your back toes. Downward facing dog. This time, inhale, left leg lifts, keeping the hips just in alignment. So if you've opened up, whoop, through the left hip, bring it back so that the right and left are really aligned here. Inhale here. Exhale, take as many steps as you need to bring your left foot in between your hands, framing that front foot with your hands. Lower your back knee, untuck your toes. Option to stay here, keeping up, tented up on the fingertips so we're lifted through the chest. Or hands can come to your left thigh or heart center. We'll notice the same things here on the left side. So pressing into the top of the back right foot and the base, the sole of your left foot. And notice if your hips feel like one is really far in front of the other. Just draw them together in space. Pressing into your foundation, scissoring the legs together. Option to open up the arms, reaching them towards the ceiling. Inhale. Exhale, opening cactus arms. Inhale, lift. Arms reach. Exhaling, cactus arms. Once more, inhaling, reach the ceiling. Exhaling, cactus arms. Then inhaling, bringing hands back. Palms touch heart center. Hands frame the front foot, stepping back. Plank pose or knees down plank. All options are great. Inhale here. Exhale, slowly lower. Arms long. Shalabhasana. This time we're going to have our palms face the floor. We'll see what that changes about how we feel the engagement in our shoulders. Inhale, lifting everything up off the mat. One more inhale. And exhale, lowering to the mat, pressing up into tabletop, hips up and back, downward facing dog. From down dog, stepping your right foot in between your hands. Again, lowering our back knee. It would feel good, and I will mention it now, but you can fold the mat up on that back knee just over itself, or maybe you grab a blanket and put that under your back knee if you feel sensitivity in your knee. So, from the slow lunge, again, inhale, hands come through heart center. And this time, exhaling, take left elbow outside right thigh. Keeping the hands in prayer, maybe taking the right hand, turning it into a fist. That would feel better on your wrist. Breathing here. Breathing into the twist. An option too, if this isn't feeling great on your low back, taking the left hand, keeping it on the mat, and just gently opening, twisting towards the right. One more inhale here, deep inhale. Exhaling, coming back through center, straightening your front leg. And this is when having blocks could be helpful, but large books would also be great. You all went to Davidson, you have large books somewhere, but you can take the hands alongside that extended leg runner's stretch. So my left hip is over my left knee, my right leg is long, I'm flexing into my right foot to protect my knee. Inhale, lengthen over your leg, can be bent as much as you like or extended towards straight. Exhaling, lowering any amount. What we're doing is we're reaching through the crown of the head. We're feeling that great stretch in the right hamstring, but we're not rounding in. We're not trying to get our nose to our knee here. That is not our goal. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Bending back into the front knee. And take your right foot out as wide as would feel good. So we're going towards the right edge of our mat with that right foot. Left and right hand come inside the right foot, moving into lizard posture. Hands can stay up on blocks if that would feel good, or coming down, hands plant on the mat. If you'd like, you can tuck that back, your back foot, and just extend the knee back a little further if you'd like a deeper stretch, or closer in towards you. A moment to really just settle here and play into the posture, finding what feels best for you and your body. Maybe you take your blocks or pillow or books, taking your elbows down to the block. Gaze is just down towards your mat, keeping a long neck. If it would feel good, you can come onto the right edge of your right foot, opening up that knee. Noticing how that changes the stretch. If you like this, great. If you want to come back to lizard with the knee just really kind of hugging in towards your right shoulder, great. With your next inhale, wherever you are, we will meet back planting our hands on the mat. So from here, I'll offer a quad stretch. Bend your back knee, plant your left hand on the mat, and then rainbow the right up and over and back towards that back foot. We're reaching for the foot or for the ankle. If it's still quite a distance away, maybe you take a towel or yoga strap around the foot and reach for it that way, or we're just energetically reaching towards it. We get all the benefits of the stretch doing that in that same way. But if you have the foot, maybe drawing it in towards your left glute, any amount that would feel good. Like opening up through the chest here, feel the right shoulder and the left shoulder draw together on the back, really gluing themselves into your upper back. One more inhale here. If you have the foot, exhale, gently release it back to the mat. Stepping back, plank posture. And then downward facing dog, hips up and back. Maybe you pedal it out. Maybe you take a child's pose that would feel best on the wrist. Give the wrist a little break. I'll actually come down to my knees for a brief moment, sit on my heels, and just move my wrists. One of my mentors describes it as revving a motorcycle. I'll take her word for it. I've never heard of one. And when you're ready, we're all meeting back in downward facing dog. This time, stepping the left foot in between the hands. Lowering your back knee, untuck your toes. Inhale, hands heart center, low lunge. Vinyasa in the Sanskrit. Breathing here. Settling here, noticing your breath. Noticing if you've been waking up any heat in the body as we've moved through our practice today. Inhale, lengthen through the crown of the head. Exhaling, right elbow around to left thigh. If this feels good, great. You can also take left hand, make it into a fist, or take right hand planted on the mat. Maybe left hand comes a little back, getting that same great opening into the chest and into your right hip flexor. Remembering to breathe here in these twists, particularly great for digestion, but sometimes the breath can feel a little stuck once we start twisting. Making your way back through center, maybe hands come to heart center. Exhale, hands from your front foot, extending that left leg long. Maybe hands come to blocks again, or maybe this side is different for you. Keep slight bend in that front knee. Right hip is over right knee. Run or stretch. One more inhale here. And then exhale, bend back into your front knee. Walk your left foot out to the left side of the mat. Lizard on the left side. Left hand comes inside the left foot, so does the right. Option to stay here, or lowering hands onto blocks if that would be a bit more of the support you're looking for today, or lowering forearms down to the mat or to blocks. You can also, if it would feel interesting, come up on the left side of the left foot. That allows that left knee just kind of gently open up any amount towards the left and see what that does to the stretch. It's really more getting into the IT band, which if you're like a runner, can get super tight. From whichever variation of lizard you chose today, make your way back so that hands plant on the mat. You can stay here or move into the quad stretch, bending your back knee, right hand plants, left arm rainbows up and over, reaching for or towards the back foot. So you can energetically just reach back, or grab a hold of the foot or the ankle. I'm grabbing on the outside of my right foot. If it would feel good to you, we're opening up through the chest. Left shoulder blade really draws together towards the right, glues onto the back. Draw your right heel any amount in towards your right glute. Really deep quad stretch here on the right side. Maybe that left knee opens back up like before. That can also change the pose and be an interesting exploration. From wherever you are, if you have the back foot, gently release, making your way back to downward facing dog. Or maybe you do, like a little cat-cow, like we did at the beginning of practice. Everyone meeting me back on your heels. So it's back on your heels. If you have yoga blocks, you can have them handy. But we'll be playing in and moving into camel pose, and I'll walk you through it. So we start up on our knee. If you have that same knee pain or sensitivity, grab a blanket, pad the knees, or roll the mat under, and I'll show you how to do that. Roll the mat under one time, like so. And put the knees on the mat, tuck your toes. So we're up, our heels are slightly elevated here. We're reaching gently back for them. So what the blocks do is they take our hands and they make it a little easier to reach back for our heels. I'll demonstrate first with blocks and then without. So we've been working in and opening up the chest, opening up the back body, all in preparation for this play into camel posture, Ustrasana. Maybe what you do, you start here, hands to low back, shoulders draw down, away from the ears and just gluing themselves on your back. Core engaged, bend in the spine, and then lift through the chest. All the movement of camel starts here, lifting through the chest. We're not even really sinking back or reaching back yet. Just energetically preparing for that. And this is a great option. Maybe the head gently looks up towards the ceiling, and if that you notice bothers your neck, draw the gaze back, forward, straight ahead. Inhaling back through center, exhale, just coming back onto the heels. Take a moment, take a breath, sitting back on the heels. You can also sit up on a blanket if this hurts your knee. Okay, great. Version 2 of Camel, of Ustrasana. I will show you with blocks. So we come back onto our knees, tuck your back toes, so the heels are elevated. That really just gives us a little more stability here. Start by the same position, hands to low back. Inhale, lifting through the chest, opening through the chest, shoulder blades draw together. If you'd like to play and you feel that you've got a nice support of your low back by engaging your core, maybe you take the left arm back towards your block, back towards your heel, and then maybe you take your right hand back towards your block, back towards your heel. Maybe look back just to see where your hands are. Breathing here. Noticing if you're sinking too far back on the heels, and pull the hips so they feel like hips are still over knees. Gaze can be forward, or gently allow the head to fall back behind you. Really crazy open through the chest, through the neck, even the front of the neck. When you're ready, gently lifting the head first if it's back. Releasing the hands from the heels, drawing all the way up. And exhale, heels back. Or, hips back to meet the heels. I'll show you one last version without the blocks this time. And if you'd like, if that's been enough, if 2 camel poses was enough, let's just go to child's pose, breathe there, and then we will all meet you there shortly. But third time's a charm. Coming back up onto your knees. Really, you're about hip width distance here again, like we were in mountain pose. Tuck your back toes if it would feel good. You can also lower them. It's a bit more of an intense back stretch on the low back. So I like tucking my toes. Yogi's choice. Bring your hands to your low back. Inhale here. Exhale, start to just reach the back, the shoulders, back, really leading with the shoulders, keeping the hips forward. Keep the belly button drawing into your spine. And when you're ready, maybe reaching left hand back for left heel, right hand back for right heel. Ustrasana, camel pose. Taking a few deep breaths here. Maybe gaze remains forward. Maybe gaze comes up towards the ceiling and then back behind you. All the versions we've done so far today are all welcome. From wherever you are, gently making your way back through center, coming back down to the mat. If your mat was folded over, you can extend it back long. And we move towards child's pose, knees wide, toes touch. Using the connection of the head, the forehead to the mat to return to the breath, just sending the breath into the low back. Return to the breath and also return again to the physical practice of opening the heart and how you could take that off your mat, and what that would look like and what that would mean to you. From wherever you are, coming back through tabletop, really just briefly to then roll back onto your heels. One more seated posture. Soles of the feet draw together, knees wide, butterfly pose. So you can take the heels as far away from you as you'd like, or as close in towards the body. If you'd like support under the knees, maybe a couple pillows or blocks would feel really good here. Taking the hands to the feet, inhale, crown of the head, lengthens toward the ceiling. Exhale, folding in. Rounding through the spine here is totally fine. Gaze in between the feet. Hello, feet. And then with your next inhale, gently walking yourself back up through center, maybe taking hands to either side of the knees, just drawing them back up through center. We're making our way onto our back. So rolling back, knees drawn to chest, just rock side to side. And just take a moment to notice how the body feels just pressing on the mat. Take a moment to just give gratitude to yourself for showing up for your practice today. Would feel good, happy baby. So draw knees wide, hands in between the legs, maybe reaching peace fingers around these two front fingers around your big toes, knees wide, and you can rock side to side. You can stay still. This is always a fun one. I always feel like my inner child in this posture, which what other way to spend a Sunday, really? If there's one more posture you'd really like to do for the remainder of class, maybe it's this butterfly pose on the back. Maybe it's just reaching the feet up towards the ceiling. I'll just let you take the next 30 seconds to move through whatever that posture is at your own time and your own pace. If your posture you've chosen has two sides, now is a good time to switch to the other side. And then when you're ready, extending the legs out long, really taking up space on your mat. So heels come out towards the edges of the mat, maybe a little beyond. Arms out wide, just giving yourself permission to take up space in your mat, wherever you're practicing yoga with us today, virtually. Again, bringing your attention, just the weight of the body as it sinks into the floor. Releasing any breath practice you might have had during class. Sending breath and awareness in between the eyebrows, noticing if they're kind of knotted together, and just allow the inhale to allow you to release in the face. We'll do a little mini Shavasana time, this time of rest, and I'll bring you out of Shavasana when it's time. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe moving into larger movements like wrists and ankles. Maybe you can take the arms overhead, full body stretch, reaching all the way from your fingers down to your toes. And when you're ready, meeting me in a comfortable seat. Maybe you sit up on a blanket, or again, offering to sit on a chair. Eyes can remain closed here if that's comfortable. Hands heart center. Really taking your time here. You can also just, if you love Shavasana and you're really ready for a moment of rest, turn off your video, close your laptop or iPad, however you joined, and just allow yourself to be in Shavasana for a while. Draw hands to third eye, that space between your eyebrows. Inhale here all together. Exhale out the mouth. Bowing into yourself. Thank yourself for your time and for your practice, and I bow into you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining for class. As Natasha said, you can find me on my YouTube channel. I'm also on Yoga, Wandering Soul Yoga, on Instagram. So if anyone wants to hang around and chat, ask questions, feel free. If not, I hope you have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you. Wow.